For literally thousands of years, we've been asking this one huge question. How are we supposed to live? Well, today, we're digging into the answer from one of the greatest minds in history, Aristotle. He created this incredible, timeless framework for what it means to live a truly good, flourishing life. So how should you live? It's the ultimate question, right? And for Aristotle, this was everything. But he wasn't interested in some abstract, pie-in-the-sky answer. No, he wanted a practical, real-world guide for how you and I can find genuine fulfillment. So let's dive in. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at why this question became so important in Aristotle's time. Then, we'll unpack his big idea of a flourishing life, get into his most famous practical tool, the golden mean, and explore why virtue is something you do, not just something you have. And finally, we'll bring it all home and see how this ancient wisdom can actually work for us today. Now, to really get what Aristotle was doing, you've got to understand the world he was living in. Ancient Greece was going through some massive, massive changes. It was a time of real uncertainty, and those old answers from myths and traditions, well, they just weren't cutting it anymore. This timeline really shows the upheaval. See, for centuries, your moral compass came from the stories of gods and heroes. Simple enough. But then, democracy explodes onto the scene in Athens, and suddenly everything's up for debate. And right in the middle of this, you get the sophists. These guys were intellectual game changers, basically arguing that there's no such thing as absolute truth or morality. It's all relative. As you can imagine, this created a kind of moral chaos. And Aristotle knew he had to find a new, stable foundation for ethics, one built on reason. And this is a super important point where Aristotle broke from his own teacher, the great Plato. For Plato, the good was this perfect, heavenly, abstract form that existed somewhere else, totally outside our world. Aristotle, he brought it right back down to earth. He said, look, there isn't one single good. There are many goods, things like health, friendship, knowledge, real, practical things we can actually go after and achieve right here in our lives. So this focus on the practical, the real world, led Aristotle to his biggest question. What's the ultimate point of it all? What is the one final goal that everything else we do is aimed at? And his answer is this amazing Greek word, eudaimonia. Now, you'll often see this translated as happiness, but honestly, that word doesn't do it justice. It's so much deeper. This isn't about that fleeting feeling you get from a good meal or a sunny day. Eudaimonia is about human flourishing. It's about living at your best, reaching your full potential. It's the ultimate why behind everything else. Think about it. We chase money or success or pleasure, not just for the things themselves, but because we believe deep down they'll lead to this state of flourishing. Okay, so if eudaimonia is our destination, how in the world do we get there? Well, for Aristotle, the path, the key, is arete. This means virtue, or maybe even better, excellence. The best way to think about it is like this. The arete of a knife is its sharpness, its excellence at cutting. The arete of a doctor is their skill in healing. So what's the arete of a human being? It's excelling at being human, which for Aristotle means using our unique gift of reason to guide how we act. And this quote just nails it. Aristotle is crystal clear. A good life isn't about what's in your head, it's about what you do. Our actions are the literal building blocks of our lives. They determine whether we flourish or falter. You don't just stumble upon your daimonia. You build it, one good action at a time. All right, so we're supposed to act virtuously. Great. But what does that actually mean when you're in a tough situation? How do you know what the right thing to do is? This is where Aristotle gives us this incredibly powerful, practical tool. He calls it mesotes, which we know as the mean, or the golden mean. The idea is pure genius. He says that every single virtue is the perfect balance point, right in the middle of two extremes. And these extremes are vices. One is a vice of deficiency, that's having too little of something, and the other is a vice of excess, having way too much. Let's make this real. Check out these examples. When you're facing fear, the virtue in the middle is courage. On one side, the deficiency, you have cowardice, not enough of it. But on the other side, the excess, you have recklessness, way too much of it. Or how about dealing with money? The virtue is generosity. The deficiency? Stinginess. The excess? Being wasteful, just throwing it all away. See? The sweet spot, the virtue, is always right there in the middle. But, and this is so important, this isn't just about finding a mathematical average. It's not that simple. The golden mean is relative to us. meaning it depends on the person and the situation. For instance, giving away $1,000 could be an act of incredible generosity for a billionaire, but it would be reckless for someone living paycheck to paycheck. Finding that perfect mean in the moment requires what Aristotle called practical wisdom. It's the street smarts of ethics, the ability to read a room, understand the context, and make the right call. And that idea of making the right call brings us to a really core part of Aristotle's philosophy. Living a good life, it's not a finish line you cross. It's an ongoing process. It's a journey. The word for this is energia, which means being in action. This is key. For Aristotle, virtue isn't a trophy you put on a shelf. It's not something you have. It's something you are constantly doing. You're not just a courageous person in theory. You are courageous when you're in the act of doing something brave. Your character isn't some fixed thing. It's the living, breathing result of your actions, day in and day out. So how do you build this virtuous character? Well, Aristotle basically gives us a roadmap. Step 1, you learn. You watch good people. You're taught what's right. Step 2, you practice. You do the brave thing, the honest thing, the generous thing, over and over and over, even when it feels awkward or unnatural. Step 3, this practice becomes a habit. It starts to feel like second nature. This creates a stable character, what the Greeks called ethos. And finally, step 4, you become. You just act virtuously, not because you're forcing yourself, but because that's just who you are now. And it really boils down to this simple, powerful idea. Character is the result of habit. You want to be a just person? Start by doing just things. You want to be a brave person? Start by doing brave things. Your actions literally shape you into the person you become. At the end of the day, you are what you repeatedly do. Okay, so let's bring this all together. What does this philosophy from over 2,000 years ago actually mean for us, right now in our crazy modern world? How can we use Aristotle's map on our own journey? Let's just quickly recap the big ideas. The goal is eudaimonia, that deep human flourishing. The key to get there is arete, living a life of virtue and excellence. The method is finding the mesotes, that golden mean between two extremes. And the path is energia, recognizing that this is a lifelong practice of building your character, one action at a time. And that leaves us with one last question, a challenge, really. We live in a world that is constantly pulling us to extremes, right? In our politics, on social media, in our ambitions. Aristotle's wisdom challenges us to resist that pull, to pause, to use our reason, and to search for that balance. To not just think about the good life, but to get out there and actively build it. So the question for you is, in your world, in your life, where is your golden mean waiting to be found?